Hello everyone, my name is Tom, and welcome to this quick chat on the Roundtable, where we talk about a specific topic in animation. Since the Steven Universe movie, people have been talking a lot about a lot of things, and one of the primary subjects being brought up is the diamonds. Who are they? Are they good, bad? What does the show want us to feel towards these characters that were just recently treated as the biggest villains in the universe? Are we just supposed to forget everything that they've done and accept them as good people? Well, let's examine this a bit. In the Steven Universe movie, the diamonds were portrayed as positively as they've ever been, and in contrast to what we've come to know them as, it feels a bit jarring. Are we now expected to open our arms and accept that these characters are good? I'm going to say no. Despite being portrayed much more positively than ever before, and now aligning with the protagonists of the story, we aren't being expected to accept them with open arms. No part of the narrative is saying that you have to like the diamonds now, or even that you should. In fact, it's being clearly conveyed that the diamonds are not perfect or morally righteous characters now. It's clear that they're trying to appease the people around them, and all of their moments of "we're good people now" come across as extremely disingenuous, and that's the point. That being said, I think there is a valuable lesson in this story between Steven and the diamonds, because the reason that the diamonds are even trying to change is because of Steven. It's not because they want to be better. They did not see the error of their ways. It's because Steven wants them to be better, and they don't want to push Steven away the way that they feel they pushed away Pink Diamond. Which is obviously not the best reason or why you should try to improve yourself, but they are changing. When you take people who need to change this badly, does it matter more that they're changing for the right reasons or that they're changing to begin with? Even if the diamonds are kinda two-faced, is that not at least an improvement from where we were at? Here's the thing you have to ask yourself. What was Steven realistically going to do with the diamonds? Lock them up? Steven as a teenage boy wasn't going to come in, overthrow the Diamond Authority, and restructure the society of Homeworld to exist without them. And I don't think that there was anyone else who could realistically do that. Also, how are they gonna lock them up, practically? Like, Steven and the Crystal Gems can't force the diamonds to do anything because none of them are even a match for blue or yellow, let alone white diamond. And for that reason, as well as many others, he wasn't going to kill the diamonds like some stories would have him do. But also consider that a big part of Steven Universe is the educational aspect. Steven Universe focuses so much on talking things out and de-escalation because they want to teach their audience that it is possible to be more diplomatic and empathetic even when it's hard, because that's how you solve your problems in real life. If someone wrongs you in life, then you generally can't kill them or try to exact punishment for the sake of justice. But what you can do in those situations is try to communicate and reach an understanding to make things easier in the future. People generally have a very knee-jerk reaction to problematic behavior, to push those guilty into exile. But by doing that, you aren't solving the problem, you're just pushing it out of view. Those people still exist, and they're still toxic, and probably going to get more toxic. That is, unless someone takes the time to guide them down a better path. Not to say that it's your responsibility to change a person, or that everyone is capable of providing that guidance, but if you're in a position to make someone a bit less awful, then that's something that Steven Universe wants to promote through a character who has the qualities to inspire that change in other people. In some ways, Lars was a much smaller scale example of this. When the series started off, Lars was a very unpleasant and draining person to be around, and this was clearly a result of deep-rooted insecurity and a fear of letting people in. Something that Steven was capable of changing over time to make Lars a more genuine and compassionate person, even if it took a very long time. Though I can't say whether or not that change was partially inspired by trauma, because Steven quite literally got that homie killed. Like, straight murdered, on an alien world. Like, imagine you got abducted and taken to the back roads of Serbia and straight clocked, and now you're just like, okay, I'll be a better person, jeez. Right after I'm done being a pirate. But real talk, the purpose of Lars' story was to introduce the idea that it's worth it to treat people with kindness and compassion, even when it might be hard. That those people aren't hopeless and can be a lot more pleasant if the right person helps them get there. Now with the diamonds, we're seeing that same idea but in a different situation. Obviously the diamonds are guilty of a bit more than being angsty, insecure teenagers. There are serious implications to what they've done, so as a result, the idea of just be nice and they'll change, which seems to be the message on the surface, is far-fetched and even problematic to a lot of people. But we have to consider this idea. Steven is in a very specific position, where he not only has the opportunity to help the diamonds change, but may even feel some responsibility to do so, because they are technically his family, and not only that, but they are willing to listen to him, and seemingly only him. Steven has influence over them, so imagine if your grandparent was an oppressive dictator, and you were able able to convince them to change for the benefit of everyone living in their society. Would you not do that? Or even since people always bring up the Nazi analogy, if you had a family member that was starting to be radicalized by the alt-right, and you had the ability to guide them away from that, if nothing else but for the reason that there would be one less Nazi in the world, thanks to you, would you honestly just cut that person off to let that ideology fester unchecked? It's a different story if it's someone who isn't going to listen to you, and you're not going to get through to them. If you're able to do what Steven did and give awful people a reason to stop acting awful, and at least reduce the negative impacts that they've had on the world, is that something that you shouldn't do? Some of this is lost in translation, I think, because it's easy to miss the changes to Steven's character post-time skip. When you look at Steven for most of the show, he's a very naive, overly optimistic, and passive character. He seems like someone who is blindly kind, and would come to a conclusion that he can fix a toxic, awful person if he's just nice to them. But that's not actually who Steven is, especially at 16. Steven has been through a lot. He has realized his biggest role model was a far from perfect person who left him with a lot of her problems. He watched his friend literally die. He was nearly murdered by his grandmothers, and that's only what I can think of off the top of my head. Innocent little Steven, who is always nice to everyone, has been through it. And you can definitely see that now in the fact that Steven is just as willing to treat the world around him with kindness, but he comes across as a bit more blunt, straightforward, and likely to challenge others than he once was. He comes across as more serious and goofy, which is very new for him, which maybe that has come from teaching the diamonds to be better and learning that he has to be more stern and assertive to get through to them. My point is, Steven isn't the same kid he used to be. He's mature enough to understand that the diamonds have done some really bad things, and he's not asking people to forgive them for that. In fact, we never once see Steven expect the crystal gems or anybody else to accept the diamonds now that they've started to change a bit. And even he's not under the impression that they've changed that much. But there's progress. Even if it is happening slowly and the diamonds are nowhere near redeemed yet, they've gotten better in small ways and their negative impact has been greatly reduced. And that's the idea. Maybe people want to see some type of retribution or consequences for what the diamonds did, but honestly that's not realistic as of right now. Like, again, all of the diamonds are way more powerful than any of the gems. I doubt that they're sorry for what they've done, so they aren't going to willingly accept punishment for it. However, if Steven can manage to change them and their values, then they will regret the things they've done, and even if Steven can't do that, he will at least change them enough to make it so the past atrocities of the Diamond Authority may never happen again, which I think on its own is worth trying for. But what do you guys think? Was there a better way to handle the diamonds after Change Your Mind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Roundtable Vids, or me on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram at TommyPQM. And if you want to see more of me, be sure to check out Let's Talk with Tom, or watch my latest Runaway Club examining the relationship between video games and cartoons. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. To go above and beyond in supporting the Roundtable, you can click the join button down below to become a channel member, or you can pledge to us on Patreon. Links in the description. As always, my name is Tom. I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time. See ya!